Man, I can't wait to see the ratings tomorrow. Wow, I gotta say, man, night one of Fyter Fest and Great American Bash delivered. That was a fun little night of wrestling there. Nothing great. Not the best stuff we've ever seen, but in terms of wrestling these days and everything that's going on now, NXT and AEW, as usual, as they do every single Wednesday in most weeks, came through with some pretty solid wrestling tonight. I enjoyed both shows, and I'm not even sure. Maybe I'll decide as I'm going through the results here and I'm talking which show I like better. I didn't really have a chance to pick because I was getting ready for the stream here. So we'll talk about it. We'll try to gauge the opinions from all of you in the chat tonight and basically give a look at both shows. I did the split screen thing tonight. I was planning on coming up an hour later after the shows went off the air, thinking it would be that long for me to get my notes together, but I was able to follow along pretty easily on both shows and only needed a few minutes at the end there to kind of catch up. So I think I'm going to have a pretty good grasp on what happened on both of these shows, and we should be able to talk about them in their entirety. First of all, hope everybody is doing okay tonight. I had mentioned a while back that I was no longer going to do Wednesday night Dynamite and NXT reviews if I happen to be home on a Wednesday because my views have been crap. But since it's Fyter Fest and Great American Bash, it's kind of a special occasion. Plus, I thought the wrestling was going to be pretty decent. Plus, I was off, and I said, why not? So the few of us that will be in here hanging out tonight, we'll have a good time. We'll make the best of it, and we will talk some fun wrestling. Hope everybody out there is doing well. Good to see everybody here in the chat that was hanging out waiting for me to get here. Taylor Moyes, thank you for the $2 right off the bat. Interesting end to Fyter Fest. Hangman and FTR versus Omega and Young Bucks, maybe, possibly. FTR was doing commentary during the main event. They came out to offer beers, I think, to Omega and Page after the match. Kenny kind of threw his out. Page wasn't so resistant to it, and you can see they've been teasing the Hangman and Omega split as almost as long as Bayley and Sasha. So it's coming. And once they do drop the belts, there's really not going to be any reason for them to hang out anymore. So a split there might be all right, and I'd be interested in that tag match, that 6-man tag. Hell yeah, I'm cool with that. Good to see you, Dan. Thanks for joining me this evening as well. I think you said you watched AEW, but you did not watch NXT. I watched them both, man, and I gotta say, Fyter Fest obviously was the better built show. They had matches that were building for a few weeks here leading up to this. Great American Bash was pretty much thrown together as WWE's answer to Fyter Fest, so they can also put on a 2-week event with some big matches. And they kind of threw theirs together, and arguably they had every bit as good of a show as the company that spent weeks building their shit. So that ought to tell you something a little bit right there, too, about the competition. But I still thought both shows delivered, and Great American Bash, that's what's scary about the amount of talent WWE has, is they can just throw shit together a week ahead of time, and it turns out to be kick-ass. I mean, I was excited all week for Io Shirai and Sasha Banks on both shows tonight. That was the match across both companies, across every match announced for tonight. That was the one I was looking forward to most. The girls. And they main evented NXT, and I thought they did a good job. In terms of which main event I like better, we'll wait and talk about that later on, but they were both pretty entertaining. And WWE, or NXT, presented their main event commercial-free, where AEW did not. They did the split screen thing. They were trying to do something earlier, too, with like the secret hashtag to try to keep people watching while they went to split screen and not switch over to NXT, but it kind of backfired a little bit on them. They didn't pull it off very well. So, unfortunately, WWE kind of had the upper hand there with commercials, especially since they were able to give us that 20-minute match with no commercial break. So, I thought that was pretty good. And overall, we need this. We need nights like this because wrestling sucks right now. So the fact that AEW and NXT can still provide us decent wrestling in the face of a pandemic and everything going on, I think is pretty promising, and at least gives us one night a week to look forward to in wrestling, since Mondays and Fridays ain't that special, as outlined in last Monday's Raw review that, again, had a really low audience, I think just due to a lack of interest. Raw scored its lowest rating, or tied its lowest rating ever, I think, last Monday. So shit sucks right now. So I'm glad that we got tonight. I'm glad that we were able to enjoy this. And we'll do our best to talk about it here now. Let me bust out a couple more super chats before we dive into the results. Which show do you guys want me to start with first? I guess we'll start with Fyter Fest. We should, because they were here first. They came up with their event first. WWE copied them to try to counter them in the ratings. And like I said when I opened the podcast here, this is one of the biggest weeks that I'm most interested in the ratings, because last week was very strange. NXT out of nowhere, after not putting on any better a show than they ever do, somehow scored a pretty huge victory in the ratings over AEW last week, right out of their ass after losing week after week after week. So why all of a sudden the big switch? I have no clue. So ratings are funny. They don't really, at the end of the day, mean anything other than, the TV networks and how important it is to them. But in terms of the ratings really, ratings really representing the better show, I don't necessarily think that's it, because there's been weeks and weeks throughout the Wednesday Night Wars where I felt NXT had the better show, and they still went down in the ratings. So I'll be interested to see what happens tomorrow. And AEW, this is a big night for them. Like, they want to pull off this victory here, because if WWE threw together a show 7 days prior and it outperformed Fyter Fest, that's going to have to be a blow to them, I would think, in terms of their, confidence and shit like that. So tomorrow will be interesting. Can't wait for Alvarez or whoever usually the first one is to post those ratings. I'll be eyeballing Twitter as soon as I wake up, and interested to see. Who do you guys think? Who do you think's got the ratings tomorrow? Place your bets, bitches. Let's answer some super chats right now before we get into things. Ramon Coffee. Good. Oh, I'm sorry, Ramon. I'm going to hang back one more. There's one more ahead of you. A Level, thank you for the $18, man. I appreciate it. What's up, Greg? Snuck away from my desk. Hope all is well. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you very much, Mr. Level. Or Mrs. I think it's a Mr. Level. And I also always appreciate hanging out here with us. And I'm sorry you're stuck at work, but I'm glad you were able to sneak away and pop in and say hello. Doing my best to stay safe and healthy, although the cases of COVID in California, and especially Southern California, are rising dramatically. But I'm doing my best, as we all are, and thank you again, my friend. Ramon Coffee, thanks for the $5, dude. Was you there the night Stone Cold exploded the DX Express bus? No, I was not at that show. I don't know where that show was. I don't know what city that was in. That was after, maybe before Survivor Series 99 or something, right? I wasn't there for that. Don't even remember where that episode was. If it was, I don't think it was in the Carolinas, because I think I would have been there for sure. If it was, I wouldn't have skipped one at that time. So, not sure. But nope, I was not there live, but I watched it. Was that SmackDown or was that Raw? I think that was SmackDown. I think. Zane, good to see you again, man. Appreciate the $5 as well. Awesome video packages to build up for Cole and Lee. Gave me chills. That was good stuff. I was trying to monitor mostly Fyter Fest while those promo packages were playing, but I could tell they were good. So that's going to be a hell of a match, man. And it's winner take all. I mean, how do you not put all your money on Keith Lee at this point after the run that Adam Cole has had? And especially going up against night 2 of Fyter Fest with a title match going on there. That could be a big deal for them, too. They put the belt on Keith Lee next week, and that's going to be tough for AEW to overcome that ratings-wise. We'll see. But yeah, Lee's my guy next week. I'm hoping for him. I'm hoping they hold up and forfeit the North American title after that and put it up in a tournament that Johnny Gargano can win. And maybe even at some time Candice gets her hands on that the women's title, and they can be the Triple H and Stephanie thing. Might be fun. Taylor, thank you, man. Appreciate another super chat from you. Would you rather wrestle for AEW or WWE right now? AEW, 100%. A little bit more creative freedom. You're not micromanaged to death. They're not putting your safety in jeopardy with their horrible handling of the COVID, not to mention all of the micromanaging in general that goes on behind the scenes and everything, all the bullshit you have to put up with. You are a slave, and at the same time, you're an independent contractor. I don't like the way their business model is at all right now. I hear nothing but horror stories, and aside from the money that they're paying you, I don't think it would be really worth being there. You'd have a ceiling. You wouldn't go anywhere, and, no matter how good you were in the ring or how much promise you had, if the writing team ain't feeling you, they ain't feeling you. And I don't want to be in a company like that. I want to be somewhere where my talents and my abilities can shine, and I can get opportunities based on those talents and abilities. And I think right now, AEW would be the best place for any wrestler, because it's a smaller pond, and you can be a bigger fish in that pond. So I would pick AEW right now anyway. Maybe when I was a kid, I was all about WWE. I'd love to be a wrestler in the Attitude Era, but in 2020... I don't really want anything to do with WWE right now, to be honest with you. They kind of make me want to vomit. Look at that audience. I knew this was going to be shit. My God, 40 people in here. It's all right. It's a small party. We'll make the best of it. Good to see you too, Mystery 1976. All right, well, enough chit-chatting. Why don't we jump into the results of the shows? We'll blow through these. knock this out pretty quick, and then I will be gone here until Saturday. By the way, special Winged Eagle podcast time this Saturday. I'm going to be going live at 2 p.m. Pacific, which will be 5 p.m. on the East Coast. My work schedule, once again, is screwing up the time. So even though I'm up here every Saturday, the time on Saturday is changing every single week to week. So I apologize for that, but I'll have announcements all over social media and the YouTube page and all that stuff for the start time, reminding you guys for this Saturday for what should be a pretty sizable podcast. And we'll probably elaborate a little bit more on tonight, but we'll avoid going through the match-by-match results because we've already done that. So, all right, let's get into Fyter Fest. Let me take a sip of my Stella Artois, and we'll get going. No, Laura, you haven't missed anything. I modeled some lingerie right at the start of the podcast, so if you want to rewind a little bit and see that, you can. Otherwise, you haven't missed much. I've just been flapping my gums. All right, let's get on with Fyter Fest. First of all, the show opened up with our Lord and Savior Chris Jericho joining the commentary team that was advertised all week, and that's how good Jericho is in these commentary spots, is that they were advertising that as a selling point for Fyter Fest. And I put on Twitter tonight, if you could somehow combine Bayley and Jericho, they could be the next Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. I honestly mean that. They are fucking great, both of them. So Jericho came out there sporting his Canadian jacket, his whole Canadian suit, which was great. He wore the same thing on the Jericho Cruise this past January, and I remember being amazed how awesome that suit was. So he's wearing it out there on Canada Day, which was pretty cool. And, of course, he killed it on commentary, and it was a four-man booth. You had JR Excalibur and Schiavone and Jericho out there. So, and they had some special guests throughout the night, too. So it was a jam-packed commentary booth all night at Fyter Fest. Show opened up with MJF and Wardlow taking on Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus in a tag team match. MJF ran his mouth talking shit in a promo before the match. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus win when Luchasaurus pins Wardlow. Now, they teased more dissension between Wardlow and MJF. MJF got the ring, the dynamite ring that he's been using to win so many matches. And I think he goes to hit Wardlow, but he ducks, and he stops right before... he goes to hit Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus ducks. He stops before he hits Wardlow, and then Lucha kind of pushes MJF into Wardlow, and he clocks him, and Wardlow kind of goes down. So... after that, Luchasaurus is able to pin Wardlow after, kind of getting hit with the dynamite. So when MJF first stopped short of hitting him, he kind of screams at him a little bit. He's like, "Can't you do anything right?" or whatever, and that's when he got shoved into him. So they've already teased that a little bit with him getting in Wardlow's face, so it's only a matter of time before Wardlow goes full Alex Riley on MJF and just beats the piss out of him, and I'm sure that's coming up really soon. They always do this with bodyguard angles. It's always the little guy treating the bodyguard like shit. Bodyguard gets pissed, fucks him up, and I think that's what's coming here for MJF and Wardlow. And I guess Wardlow will be on a babyface run, I suppose, but I think, keeping him as just a monster machine ass kicker would also be fine. So we'll see. We'll see how long they drag their feet on that, if it's even close to as long as Omega and Page, or if they just go ahead and do that split sooner than later. After that, we cut to Lance Archer attacking Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss in the audience. Janela and Archer are set to face next week, so they were kind of furthering that angle. We had the women's title up next, Hikaru Shida defending against Penelope Ford. She earned that opportunity, I think, a week or so ago. And this was a match that I wasn't really expecting any sort of a title change. I fully expected Hikaru Shida to get past Penelope Ford. They wouldn't switch the belt to her this fast. So, if anything, I was just kind of hoping for a good match here, and it wasn't bad, I gotta say. One really hokey spot in the match, though, that I did not like. In the beginning of the match, Kip Sabian got tossed out because he was being a son of a bitch or something, so he kind of had to go away. During the match, he returns. Penelope's out of the ring. Hikaru Shida's in the ring by herself. Kip Sabian comes in with a kendo stick and swings this thing at like a baseball bat at Hikaru Shida's head. I don't know what would have happened if he would have connected there. She ducks, punches him, and I guess the idea was for him to get hit and the kendo stick to go flying up in the air, but it looked so bad. Go back and watch the replay. I was like, ugh. So she hits him, and he literally just throws the stick up in the air. It couldn't look more fake if he tried. And, of course, I think it lands in her hand, and then she hits him with it or something like that. In the end, despite Kip Sabian's interference, Hikaru Shida still wins, nailing Penelope with the running knee. I don't know what she calls that as her finisher. Nails that and pins her, retains the title. Good for her. We ain't ready for Hikaru Shida to drop that belt yet. I think she's fabulous, and I want to see her have a little bit of a run. I was surprised she beat Nyla Rose to begin with, but now she's champ. I'd like her to stay champ. No hot potatoing necessary with that belt, at least right now, in my opinion. Thank you for that super chat, Zane. I'm going to answer that one in just a second once I am done with the Fyter Fest results. I'll catch all those up, and then we'll move on to the Bash, Great American Bash. Next up, Cody Rhodes versus Jake Hager. Now, I wasn't sure the order of the matches tonight. I thought this might be their main event. In hindsight, they did the right thing here, making that tag match the main event, because if it was Cody and Hager one-on-one versus Sasha and Io one-on-one, I think Sasha and Io would destroy them. So at least with the best friends and Omega and Paige and all that athletic talent in there, you can have a lot more excitement, I think, in a match like that where Cody and Hager might be a little slower paced. And I thought that was a good decision to not make them the main event and basically put them at the top of the first hour. And it was a hard-fought match, really hard-hitting. Cody Rhodes is one of the best fucking RKOs I've ever seen in my life. They had Dustin Rhodes show up at one point. He actually clocks Hager. Hager winds up still recovering from that and puts Cody in the choke. And Cody's able to counter it and kind of roll over him and get him in a pinning combination. And it kind of looks like Cody might be tapping at the same time, but the referee counts 1, 2, 3. And it was kind of funny. They did the deal where Hager thought he won because, you know, he had Cody choked out and he was kind of tapping, but Cody Rhodes' music was playing. So the whole time, Hager's kind of like celebrating, like raising his hand up in the air. Can he not hear that Cody's music is playing? I think it would have been best there to not play any music if they wanted to sell Hager thinking he won. You know what I mean? So I would have done that differently. But in the end, I guess that was their way of protecting Hager, because one thing I was worried about in this match is that I didn't see a title change. I just don't see Cody dropping that belt yet. The belt isn't even finished. He doesn't even have the finished product of that belt. It still has to be, you know, cleaned up and gold-plated and all of that. So I can't see Cody dropping it before the belt is done being manufactured, so I figured he'd get past Hager here. But did you want to beat him again right after he already had a title match against Moxley and got beat? If he has one here against Cody and gets beat, what does he have to do now? So the fact that he kind of thought he had the match won, Dustin interfered a little bit, gives him an excuse, gives him a reason to keep running his mouth, and maybe he'll get a rematch out of these guys sometime down the road, or, you know, maybe sooner than later on Dynamite. Next up, we had Orange Cassidy coming out, which was great. Orange Cassidy comes out to the stage with a chair, and the first thing I said was, oh my God, I hope he joins commentary. I hope he joins commentary. And he did, went right over there and sat with Jericho and the guys, put his feet up on the desk, didn't even put a headset on, just sat there and watched the next match, which was pretty funny. Jericho was perturbed as hell about that. The Battle of the 4 Ps, Private Party and Proud and Powerful. Say that 5 times fast. Private Party got the win here. I was surprised. They had Matt Hardy with them. He's kind of been like mentoring them a little bit. He's kind of version 1 Matt Hardy when he was with those guys. And I thought this would be a pretty good win for Inner Circle here. But in the end, Private Party got what I thought was the upset win in a not a horrible match at all. We had a Taz and Brian Cage promo coming up next. This was interesting because Taz, I kind of like Taz, the style that they do the promos with Taz, the way his face is right in the camera like that, and that angle that he has with Cage in the background. So he's talking all sorts of shit, and he's talking to Moxley about being home on his ass, talking about, you know, the COVID testing. And he goes, you've already been tested twice, and it came back negative, so why aren't you here? So if you've got the guts to come here next week, you'll be tested again before you get to the building, because we don't run a sloppy organization here. I thought that was a great little dig at WWE. You know, letting them know, you guys are the big boys in town. You guys are the ones that should be setting the example. And instead, you're embarrassing professional wrestling, and we're the ones doing it right. That's pretty much the message he was conveying there in that sentence. So I loved that. That was great. I'm still not just I'm not a Brian Cage fan. I like Brian Cage. I just think he came to the top way too quick. I just don't know. You know, you did this with Lance Archer. You did this with Brody Lee. You did it with Jake Hager. Giving these guys title shots right away just doesn't feel like it leaves them anywhere to go if they're not going to win. And I don't know what's going on internally, but I don't see them putting the belt on Brian Cage. I could be wrong. Now, if they do, he's their next guy, I suppose, and then all this is fine, but I don't see it. I kind of think Moxley will hang on to the belt for a little while longer. So if he beats him, What does Brian Cage do then? Does he beat him in a weird way, sets up a rematch with a stip, or does Brian Cage go towards somebody else? I don't know. We'll see what goes on there. But next week, I'm not expecting a title change, because think about it, if both companies do a title change, I think most of us are going to be much more interested in Keith Lee winning the belt than Brian Cage winning the belt. Like Keith Lee winning it is going to be a great moment. We're not going to want to take our eyes off that. Brian Cage winning the belt might be a channel changer. So I don't know. I'd keep the belt on Moxley here. And unless they do some big surprise, that would be something else that could happen. I don't know what, but if they've got somebody waiting in the wings, some free agent out there that they could bring in and interfere in the match, or maybe after Moxley wins, come out and confront Moxley and do a stare down to try to keep the focus on them on the main event. Especially if they're going head-to-head with Keith Lee and Adam Cole. If it's just a Moxley pin, anybody who is watching AEW, the minute that hand comes down for the 3 count, you're going to hop over to NXT. So maybe try to do something where you got some sort of a surprise at the end. I think that's really their only way of delivering a better main event next week. Keith Lee and Adam Cole are going to destroy Moxley and Cage in terms of in the ring by a mile, if you ask me. So unless they don't do that as the main event, unless that's like Cody and Hager and that's the top of the hour, and they do Jericho and Orange Cassidy in the main event or something, I don't know. But it's going to be a tall order for them to put on the better show next week, considering some of the matches that NXT's got lined up, especially for the title. So we shall see next week with Moxley and Cage, and I suppose that, I don't know, I don't think that's been taped yet. So was tonight live? I don't even know. You guys got to help me out there. But if Moxley does show up to the arena next week and he tests positive, your main event's out the window. So I don't know. We'll see what happens next week. But either way, if I may be AEW, I'm keeping the belt on Johnny Mox. That leaves us with the main event of Fyter Fest, of night 1 of Fyter Fest anyway. The Best Friends challenging Omega and Page for the tag team titles. This was the best entrance I have ever seen. Pretty interesting that both main events had entrances with automobiles, but AEW gets the win here. WWE might have spent all the money with the souped-up sports cars, but nothing beats Trent's mom dropping Chucky and Trent off in a fucking minivan and giving them a kiss on the cheek and telling them to have fun, boys. I'm marked out. Absolutely marked out. So that was cute. Nice little touch there, and it's why AEW can be a such more entertaining wrestling show sometimes, is because of shit like that. So well done there. We had FTR showing up to join the commentary team. They're out there chugging some beers during the match. This was really good. I mean, I knew this match was going to be good. I was ready for it all week, but again, I didn't really see the Best Friends winning the titles here. I feel like Omega and Page will drop them in a kind of a bigger stage, but this wasn't the main event, and it had me thinking that maybe they could pull off the upset here and finally do the Omega and Page split. But in the end, Omega and Page got the win, and just a really, really good match. FTR leaves headset. They come into the ring after the match. They've got some beers. From what I saw, it looked like they offered the beers to Omega and Page. Page, of course, is all about it, but Omega pours his out. Seems like, Page didn't really mind FTR being there. Kenny was very resistant to it. So if this leads to FTR versus Omega and Page for the titles, hells yeah. If it leads to some sort of a weird 6-man where you split Kenny and Page up, put Page with FTR, Kenny with the Bucks, and you do a 6-man, that will tickle my special place too. So either way, I'm going to be a happy camper here. I kind of like what they're setting up with these tag teams in AEW. And overall, I give Fyter Fest a thumbs up. Like I said, I didn't have time to grade it. So you guys can grade it for me. If you guys want to do 0 to 10, A, B, C, or D, however you want to do it, let me know what you think of Fyter Fest, and let me know how you think Fyter Fest holds up to the Bash, because they're both pretty solid. So that wraps up night 1 for AEW. Next week should be good. And next week in NXT should be pretty good too. Before we get into the Bash results, let me cruise. Chat-wise, still pretty low audience, but that's what happens on Wednesdays. Zane, good to see you again, and thank you, man, for the $10. Very generous of you to follow up on Ramones SC. The DX Express was days before Backlash 2000 with Austin and Rock's Corner. That's right. I was thinking it was Survivor Series. Yeah, that's right. It was Backlash when he was going to be in the Rock's Corner, and he was not ready to come back. He was all overweight and shit. That's right. And he blew up the bus. That main event, man, that Backlash main event, imagine if you moved that exact same main event with all the same players to the previous month as the main event of WrestleMania. That's what it should have been. You know, it should have been The Rock versus Triple H and do the Stone Cold thing and have Rock win. The ovation and the crowd pop he got when he won at Backlash was unreal, especially 30 days after a very, very disappointing WrestleMania right up the road here in Anaheim. They just dropped the ball huge on that, but they still got the main event done. Backlash was great. A lot of energy in that match, and I just remember that atmosphere that was super, super electric when he won the title. Great stuff. But I think bringing Austin back was extremely premature, and I think WWE was just trying to add interest to the pay-per-view, and he really wasn't needed. Victor Colon, thank you, man, for the $2. Actually, the Mox vs. Cage match is not happening? Oh, did they say that on Dynamite and I missed it? Shit. And Marcus, you're hitting me with that as well. Oh, how did I not know that? Was it originally scheduled for next week? And sorry. Oh, rescheduled. Okay. Well, thank you, Marcus, and thank you, Victor, for giving me $4 and letting me know the deal there. That's what happens when you do split screen. I was trying to watch both shows, so I must have just not heard that announcement. Wow. Okay. Well, I guess that's a bummer. I wonder why. Just, are they adding an extra week just for added safety? Weird. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't know what happened there. Don't mind me. Sometimes it's hard for me to pay attention. Let's move on to the Great American Bash. Night 1. Now, I'm not against them having like a 2-night event. It's just to use Dusty's idea just as a way to compete with Dusty's own kids' promotion just makes me feel dirty inside. And I don't know why. The WWE, they're such assholes, you know, they're such trolls. God damn this company. But I did like the fact that they were doing a special event with some maybe larger than normal matches that we would see on Wednesday, all put together due to the competition on Wednesday nights. That's what competition is about. In a lot of ways, this night epitomized competition because one show's got a lot of shit planned, so the other show counters it with great shit too. And that's why Raw and Nitro were so good for so many years, because they knew the other show was going to bring it, so they needed to bring it too. And this is a perfect example of why competition is better. I just think that them throwing it together this quick was just so transparent, and then just the use of the Bash. Cody had done an interview earlier this week where he made a statement about the Bash and said he just hopes that they don't do with the Bash what they did with Starrcade. You know, they were just suffering, ticket sales were suffering in North Carolina. So they just brought back the Starrcade name to slap it onto a house show to try to get more tickets sold when it really didn't mean anything. You know, Starrcade was such a big part of the NWA and WCW, and to turn it into a house show now is just a dick move, man. So the fact that the Bash is treated a little bit bigger and it's attached to NXT, which gives us great wrestling, and Dusty was a big part of NXT and mentored a lot of the current talent there, so it's kind of a tribute to him in a lot of ways, but I look at this more in WWE being a troll than them tributing Dusty, you know what I mean? So that's just the way they are. But whatever, it turned out to still be a pretty decent night of wrestling. I like the little set they did with the red, white, and blue theme, beating us over the fucking head with how great America is, when in all actuality, America is shit right now. And happy Canada Day, by the way. So, Great American Bash, red, white, and blue shit everywhere. They had a couple of cars out there at the ringside area, all decked out and stuff. And it wasn't as cool as the In Your House set, but still pretty cool. Show opened up with Dakota Kai taking on Tegan Nox, Mia Yim, and Candice LeRae. This is a number 1 contenders match, right? I've already gotten one thing wrong so far in the stream, so correct me if I'm wrong there. It was an elimination match as well, and I kind of had pegged probably Candice or Tegan to win this. I had Candice in mind just because of her, you know, kind of new identity and her new momentum with Johnny. And I also had Dakota, not Tegan. Candice or Dakota are the two that I had figured out because I thought it would be a heel because Io Shirai is your champion right now, and I think one of them would make a better challenger for her, and I didn't really have anybody else on my radar. But Candice was actually eliminated first. She was one of the ones I picked, and she was outed first. Dakota was able to roll up and score kind of like a crab roll up something or other on Mia Yim and eliminate her, leaving it with the old rivals, Dakota and Tegan Nox. And I thought this was Dakota's night. I thought she would win here. I know the baby faces generally need to win the feud, but I thought Dakota, a title shot for her, especially with her teaming up these days with Raquel Gonzalez. I thought that was going to be the direction they went in, but instead they gave it to Tegan, which I don't exactly hate. I just was surprised by that. So Tegan ended up beating Dakota, hit her with the shiniest wizard for the pin, and now I guess she'll get a match at some point with Io Shirai whenever that is set to take place. I don't know, but it should be good. Not disappointed in that, just had it wrong. Thought it was going to be Dakota or Candice all the way there. So congrats to Tegan, good for her. And I'm not taking that belt off Io Shirai right now anyway, so I think it's going to be nothing more than a shot for Tegan, but I'm glad to see her getting some opportunities after the difficult couple of years she's had. We had a Damian Priest promo up next. He is calling out Cameron Grimes and says, "You got my full attention now, and you are up Schitt's Creek." And he challenges him to a future match. Don't know if that's going to happen next week or not. Later on, Cameron Grimes did a promo challenging the winner of Keith Lee and Adam Cole. So he thinks that he's number one contender now, and he's yelling and hewing and haying out there. So don't know if he's going to have to run into and deal with Damian Priest first before whatever title match he gets, but if they do give Cameron Grimes a title match, Keith Lee will eat him up and shit him out in 45 seconds, I have no doubt. Up next, we had Timothy Thatcher taking on Oney Lorcan, just a good old grudge match here. Good stuff. Thatcher putting on a clinic, as always, taps Oney Lorcan out to win the match. Not a big surprise there, that match on paper. How are you going to give the match to Oney? They're building Thatcher pretty hard right now. He's got the Thatchcan promos and vignettes on NXT right now. Big win in the cage over Matt Riddle a couple weeks ago. He's on a roll. He ain't losing here. And I spent most of my time during that match watching Fyter Fest. Next up, we had the handicap match. Rhea Ripley taking on Robert Stone and Aaliyah. So Robert Stone's in there dressed like a complete buffoon. Rhea, I knew was going to make quick work of these guys, and she did. She beat the piss out of both of them, wound up tapping them both out in the double crab finisher thing, whatever she calls it. And they're both tapping out simultaneously. Rhea looks like a boss, which is good because it's kind of interesting where she's landed since the beginning of the year. She had that great close of 2019, winning the title in December like that, and then running into Charlotte, losing the belt, not winning it back, then putting it on Io next. And it seems like now she's just kind of treading water until they put her back in the title picture. So I'm still hoping for that for Rhea. I felt like she was going to be the next big thing, and it feels like she's cooled off a bit. So we're still a big fan of Rhea Ripley's here on this channel, and we wish that broad-shouldered beauty the best. Hope she wins the title sometime in the future again. We had Dexter Lumis versus Roderick Strong up next. This was a strap match. I love this because Roderick Strong has been scared shitless of Dexter Lumis. I'm scared shitless of Dexter Lumis. Every night before I go to sleep, I check under my bed for Dexter Lumis. Luckily, I haven't seen him yet, but when I do, rest assured, I'll be pooping my pampies. He has gotten Roderick Strong into the strap match, and he's already freaked out because he's, had to face his fears with a trunk. He's needed therapy, and now he's going to be tied to this guy after literally sprinting away from him at least 3 or 4 times on TV leading up to this. So I thought that was a good step to making this match a strap match where he can't get away. He attacks Dexter before they can get hooked into their strap. He's stalling a bit. Dexter's got his strap on, but Roderick wants nothing to do with it. Attacks Lumis, starts beating him down. Lumis gets the upper hand and just puts the strap on Roddy's hand himself. The match was damn good, man. This was a good strap match. And I always wonder, the strap adds such a different element to the match. You just can't go through your normal routine. You just can't do moves the same way. You have to be constantly conscious of where this leather thing is, tripping you up or screwing you up or whatever. So whenever you have, Roddy is a veteran. He can handle a strap match, but Dexter Lumis, how long has he really been in the ring? And I thought they just put on a fabulous match here. It spilled all the way up to the entrance ramp. They were all over the place. Roderick almost got shoved in the trunk of one of the sports cars at one point, and it was good stuff, man. Action-packed the whole time. In the end, despite interference from Bobby Fish, who ran out there to try to interfere, Lumis is able to strongly choke out Roderick Strong, no pun intended, and he taps out like a bitch, and that was the end of that. So Dexter is on a roll. I'm liking him. I've almost liked him from the moment I saw him, he's just a different type of looking guy. He's kind of got that serial killer, remorseless, almost in what Stone Cold Steve Austin described himself to be when he first came in. Even when he was the ringmaster, he was kind of that, a little bit softer spoken, even though he could talk a little bit, but he was just a little more, straightforward and a little colder. And I feel like that's what Dexter Lumis is, and I'm liking the gimmick. And we'll see. I think there's some good matches to be had with Dexter and a lot of guys, in the company, and even on the main roster too. So we're going to keep an eye on Noel Dexter and see how many matches he can string up here. And I'd like to see him get a pretty sizable push, if you ask me. And maybe he can run through all of the Undisputed Era. Maybe if Adam Cole does indeed drop the belt, maybe Cole can get a match with Dexter Lumis as well and put him over too. I don't know. And then maybe head to the main roster. I don't know. I don't know what the future is going to be for Undisputed Era. The way they've been losing, no longer tag champs, right? Who the hell are the tag champs? Undisputed Era? Oh, no. Imperium. So, with them losing, Roderick finally finishing up and losing, coming out of the losing end of his feud with Dexter Lumis, and now Cole likely coughing up that belt next week. I don't know. I don't know where the era is going to wind up here in the next few weeks. Should be interesting. We had a Phantasma promo next. He's out there with his boys, talking his crap on the mic. Drake Maverick, still hell-bent on revenge, gets in the ring, tries to attack. They overpower him, of course, because the numbers game catches up with him in a matter of seconds. And they've got Phantasma's goons, or I'm sorry, Santos Escobar's goons have got him held down, and he's talking smack to him. Breezango runs out there out of nowhere. Tyler and Fandango come out to kind of make the save. They run off the trio there, and we've got a 6-man tag set for next week. It's going to be Drake Maverick and Breezango taking on whatever his Santos's faction is called. So we'll see. I'm also interested to see if they dress up Drake. Like, Drake seems like a perfect little project for Breezango. And dress him up all fashion-y, and he'd come out there in matching outfits with them. I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but it'll be pretty funny to see them dress up little Drake to look like a third Breezango member. And hell, who knows? That could be a permanent team. We'll see. But it should be a pretty decent 6-man next week, and the card's looking good. That leaves us with the main event, Io Shirai versus Sasha Banks. Yeah, Jake, Lumis versus Cross. I agree totally. So Io Shirai and Sasha Banks was up next. This was not a title match, correct? Sasha's got the title match coming up here soon against Asuka on Raw. And this was presented commercial-free, which was, again, just shows WWE's power. They are playing the role of WCW now from back in the day. Back when WCW was on TNT, they held all the cards. They pulled all the strings. They could do anything they wanted on that network because Ted Turner owned it, where WWE was kind of at the mercy of USA. Now they're more in the driver's seat where, they can pretty much request anything and USA will give it to them. So they presented this match commercial-free, which I think will wind up helping them a bit in the ratings tomorrow when they do come out, especially if the quarter hours are broken down. But I'm glad if all the matches on both shows that were going to be presented commercial-free, this is the one, because I knew it was going to be really good. And it was. Kick-ass action by these ladies. I'm a huge fan of Sasha right now, one of my favorite ladies in all of wrestling. I think she's doing a great job. I kind of thought she would pick up the win here, considering it was a non-title. Bayley would stick her face in there and allow Sasha to win, because I think Sasha's going to get beat by Asuka. I think Sasha's on the road to take the belt from Bayley. I don't think she's going to win the red belt, unless they want to do the 2-women power trip thing with the two of them holding every belt. And they could do that, but I think if Sasha's going to win a title, a singles title, she needs to beat her friend Bayley with all the subtle tension that's been going on between them for the past 28 months. So that's kind of what I see in the future for her, which is why I thought she might pick up the win here, considering she's about to eat a loss to Asuka down the road. So all in all, Bayley, even when she's not on the mic and she's just out there yelling like a complete total Karen, she's great. She's out there screaming, cheering on Sasha, being very loud and very obnoxious throughout the whole match, which was great. We had Asuka appearing to kind of out of nowhere, and we mentioned Asuka, the possibility of her appearing here, because I kind of feel like we're going to get a tag. down the road with Asuka and Io taking on Sasha and Bayley. And that's going to be fun. Whether that happens next week on night 2 of Bash or a future NXT event, I don't know. But that match has got to be coming, you would think. Asuka shows up, kind of gets rid of Bayley. Sasha gets in her face, like leans through the ropes, and Asuka mists her right in the face. Green mist right in the face, which was great. Io Shirai rolls her up. Sasha kicks out. She knocks Sasha down, gets up to the top, hits a beautiful moonsault on her, and in a great little move because Asuka had sprayed the mist in Sasha's face when the referee wasn't looking. So, it's going to be hard for the ref to not notice green shit all over Sasha's face, but she's got all that hair, and for the most part, her hair was covering her. And when Io Shirai hit the moonsault on her in a brilliant move, whether it was meant to or not, she might have not even meant to do it, but when she went for the pin, she put her thigh over the face of Sasha, which was great because the referee's right there in position to look at the shoulders, but he can't see Sasha's face. If the referee would have seen Sasha's face covered in mist, how does he not disqualify Io Shirai? So she might not even meant to do it, but a super nice touch there and great awareness by Io if she meant to do that, to throw that knee over top of Sasha's face. Referee counts her down, and Io Shirai gets the win and celebrates with Asuka as the show goes off the air. So I thought that was a fabulous main event, and the ladies came through. Which I know I asked you guys this earlier, and I haven't read the chat, but which main event did you think was better? How do you vote against Io and Sasha there? I mean, Best Friends and Omega and Paige was awesome. But was it more awesome than this? I don't know. Either way, good night of wrestling. 2 solid main events. They delivered. Both shows did. Next week, by the way, on night 2 of the Great American Bash, we got a couple of matches set up. We got Mia Yim taking on Candice LeRae. They got into a little scuffle backstage at the Bash tonight, so they set that up for next week. And we've got that 6-man we talked about earlier with Breezango and Drake Maverick taking on the Lucha Boys. And also, of course, Keith Lee versus Adam Cole. Winner take all match, title for title. That's going to be a dandy. Despite the fact that Keith Lee is literally wrestling someone the size of one of his legs, I still think it's going to be a fabulous match. And if I had to guess, I think of both nights, Fyter Fest and NXT, night 1 and night 2, I think the best match, I should say, is going to belong to NXT on both nights. My opinion. Maybe I'll have to go back and watch them again, and maybe my thoughts will change on the tag match, but I'm going Sasha and Io. I could watch them work all day. So, yeah. Anyway, both good shows. Like I said, very interested to see what the ratings do tomorrow because of last week's really kind of random big victory by NXT. And we'll see, did Fyter Fest do enough to maintain the ratings win? Because if they don't, I think that's going to be a little bit of blow to them to not be able to have the show built for so many weeks and to lose to a show that was literally thrown together. And WWE can lean back and fall back on all the ridiculously good talent they have there and throw together shows in a matter of days and make them good. Based on the crazy talent they do have. So, I don't know. We'll see. What do y'all think? Big Show versus Keith Lee. I don't want to see that. I mean, unless Keith Lee beats him in 5 seconds. Yeah, Mr. E, I do believe Keith Lee will win the title. That's what I do. It's time. What does Cole really do, from here? I think maybe if Velveteen Dream situation would have been different, it could have been him. I thought he was the next one in line given his run and his track record there and all the great matches he's had and what an over character he's been. I didn't see how you don't put the title on him, but given his situation and his personal life and things like that, who really the only guy on the roster that's dominant and to me close to unbeatable would be Keith Lee. He was been impressive ever since last year when he was mixing it up with the Raw and SmackDown guys and showing some promise there. So Keith Lee's the man. He's one of my favorite guys in the company right now. Keith Lee, Sasha Banks, Randy Orton. There's a few that are just on fucking fire right now in WWE, and he's one of them. And I really am rooting for him hard next week. Go Keith Lee. I think it's safe to say we're all rooting for him, right? Is there anybody out there that doesn't want to see Keith Lee win? And if you don't, were you dropped on your head? Victor Colon, thank you for $2, man. The Renee Young situation is why the Mox is delayed. Okay, thank you for that. And again, I apologize. I was trying to do the split screen thing, so if they announced that on Dynamite, or on Fyter Fest, I completely missed it that the match has been postponed. I tried to listen to the Taz promo. I just didn't catch any of that. So to me, I was more focused on him kind of taking the dig at WWE, saying we don't run a sloppy company here, and we know what to do in situations like this. So I think that got me so aroused that I didn't pay attention to the rest of what was being said. So I apologize for being stupid. It happens. Zane, thank you, man, for the $5. With rumors of Jericho wanting Roman Reigns in AEW, how would you see AEW using Roman Reigns? Would you ever see that happening? AEW getting their hands on Roman Reigns, that can never happen. WWE will not let him go. They will chain him by his neck to the furnace in the basement of Titan Towers. He ain't going anywhere, but if he did, he would be at the top of the card right away. For people that think Roman Reigns isn't good, can't wrestle, or anything like that, is a fool. You know, he's amazingly athletic, great look, and a ridiculously good family bloodline, which most young fans have no goddamn clue about how deep the Samoan blood runs and the history they have in this business, and all of us should want the continuation of that. So why fight against that to a guy that's a lot like John Cena? Number one, just a good dude. You know, he's had a wellness policy suspension, but in terms of like his behavior, how he carries himself, he's not an embarrassment, you know, to the business. And it's somebody that you want in that top spot. So there would be no, and he's got a good attitude, and all the legends in the business respect him. The only people that don't respect him are the asshole fans sitting on their fat asses at home. So if he goes into AEW, I absolutely think he is the big dog right away there. Probably have some run-ins with Moxley and probably Jericho too. And AEW could probably do a better job of getting the fans behind him because the fans are so anti everything that WWE wants. If he goes into AEW, they might be, you know, Roman might have a whole career rebirth there. He might no longer hear the boos. You know, he might actually hear some cheers, you know, because I don't think he'll be handled the same way as WWE, but in terms of him being at the top of the card and challenging for the title, from the minute he's there. I mean, if Brian Cage wins a number one contenders spot in his first match, Roman Reigns damn sure is. He should come in there and just be awarded the title based on his track record, but I don't see it happening unless his contract does come up and AEW just says, let's just throw every dollar we have at him, and they make him an offer that WWE literally can't counter. But I think WWE likely will. Would they really let him go? Roman might be in a great position. I have no clue what his contract status is and when it is up. But if AEW is putting feelers out there, or they're making it known, or Jericho is, that they would have interest in him, it's going to force WWE to, hey, what'd you make last year? All right, we'll double it. You know, so he's in a good spot right now. Roman Reigns for a pretty sizable contract whenever his contract is up. But it's not like he's broke right now. Jesus, how much do you think he makes in WWE? $5 million a year? $4 million a year? Something like that? I'd say 2 to 5 would be my guess for Roman, maybe more. But yeah, I'm down with that. I'm all for Roman in AEW. I actually saw that on Facebook about the Mox Cage match. Oh, okay, yeah, Brian Cage. Oh, okay. So they're doing Fight for the Fallen now? All right. Well, that sucks. Nice job, WWE. You assholes, and your horrible handling of the COVID has screwed up a title match in your rival promotion. Nice job, dickheads. Sloppy promotion. Isn't that what Taz said? It's exactly what it was. All right, Brandon. I see that. I can see that happening because that's one thing we didn't talk about is that, you know, Karrion Kross came out, or Scarlett did, and put that hourglass in the ring when Adam Cole was there, basically saying, like, look, my man is going to F you up something good. You're next. But then that kind of went away, and Keith Lee got the opportunity. So you could see Karrion Kross come out, cause a DQ or something, and then he goes on to face Adam Cole. But in order to put Kross over in that big way, that killer way, I almost think Keith Lee's got to win and run with, and they just slow down a bit on Karrion Kross. Still have him beat guys, still have him annihilate guys, give him a little mini program, two or three little mini programs in a row where he's got an issue with a guy for like 3 weeks, and then he eventually puts him down, chokes him out, and all of that. And Lee can have a little bit of a run, I'd say, until like the end of the year, and then he runs in to Karrion Kross, who puts him down. And if Karrion Kross is able to beat Keith Lee, in a similar fashion that he beat Tommaso Ciampa. Karrion is going to be pretty damn strong, especially after the year Keith Lee has had, and putting down someone like that, it would be a lot like, beating a Brock Lesnar or something. So I think beating Keith Lee would probably make Karrion look even stronger than beating Adam Cole, unless they do a deal where it's like a Diesel Bob Backlund type of thing. He causes the DQ, you set up Cole and Karrion Kross, and Cole beats him in 8 seconds. I'm sorry, Karrion beats him in 8 seconds. Could happen. Just grabs him, chokes him out, breaks him in fucking half, wins the title dominantly. Maybe not 8 seconds, maybe a minute. But whatever it is, squash him. Squash him. I think that could carry equal amount of weight. But I'm such a Keith Lee fan, and I'm a Karrion Kross fan too, but, there's really no rush with him. He's going to be great, and he just got there. And Lee has had much more time there. He's had a chance to get over. He has main roster experience. He's had experience against all the top guys, and he's never disappointed anyone in any of his matches. So I think Lee, in terms of who deserves it, Keith Lee deserves it more, at least right now. But Karrion, I just want to see him not lose and then put down Keith Lee maybe at the same time last year when Rhea won the title. Wasn't it like the last show of the year, late December or something like that? I'd be down for that for Karrion Kross. Same thing as last year. Last Wednesday of the year, you put him over. You enter 2021 with a new figurehead in NXT. I'd be all about that. And you could have Keith Lee right after that show up in the Royal Rumble and be on the main roster. That would give him enough time to have a rematch with Karrion Kross, which you'd have to do that. And between him winning the title and the rematch, just in time for the Rumble, and Keith Lee is, I don't know, what do you think, SmackDown for Lee? I think SmackDown for Lee. I worry about Keith Lee on Raw. But I think SmackDown would be fantastic. We shall see. Luigi de Raw, thank you for the $5. I think Thatcher could be the next Benoit in a good way. I do too. He gives off those Benoit vibes. He's got the missing chiclets. He's tough as goddamn nails. And he's a scary son of a bitch too. And I was laughing when I was watching the Timothy Thatcher-Oney Lorcan match on the other screen on TNT. They had like a Taz, Brian Cage vignette where Taz is talking about the fighting ability of this guy. I'm like, Timothy Thatcher would whip his ass if they had a match, because I'm watching Thatcher just put on this clinic against Oney Lorcan, and I'm like, man, just because you have big muscles doesn't mean you can fight. Thatcher can fight, and I'm loving that guy a lot. So ever since he's gotten there, I've been a big proponent of his, and I would like to see him get a run. Imagine Thatcher and Killer Kross. Whew. Gives you chills, doesn't it? That'd be some good shit right there, especially in 2021, Thatcher versus Kross for the title. Thatcher could go down. You don't have to win the title. Not everybody can win the title. But, man, with the track record he'll have by then, and you put him in the ring with Karrion Kross, that would be a match and a half, man. Whew. I'm ready to see that. Yeah, well, Reigns and a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of guys have trouble with the promos just because of the scripted nature of them. But, Reigns, it's not like he lacks speaking ability. He knows how to put words together to form sentences. Top to bottom, left to right, group words together to form sentences. Take Tylenol for any headaches. Midol for any cramps. Tommy Boy, 1996. I don't know, man. I haven't heard any word on Lars Sullivan. Don't care about him. If I never see him back, I'm fine. Never liked the guy at all. I know people change and everything, but those old message board posts of him are infuriatingly disgusting. He's not getting my vote. Fuck him. I'm a different person then. No, you're not. You're just saying you are. F off, Lars Sullivan. Go make another porn and don't come back. Keith Lee main eventing WrestleMania. If he won the Rumble, I mean, think about that. Think about how good that would make Karrion Kross look in the process. Not only does he put down a beast like Keith Lee, he goes directly to the main roster, wins the Rumble, and gets a title shot against, by then, maybe Brock again. Maybe Brock will be champion by next year, unless they keep it on McIntyre for the full year and he drops it at WrestleMania. Maybe McIntyre Maybe McIntyre is one of the few guys that turns heel in the middle of his run. We've talked about that before. Macho Man Randy Savage, CM Punk off the top of my head are the really only names to do that, the big names. A couple in WCW did as well. Maybe the Giant and somebody else. Can't remember. But the most notable ones in my head are Punk and Savage. And if Drew did that and then goes into WrestleMania next year as a heel, because I still feel like fans are going to get a little sick of him. He's being very sportsmanlike right now on TV. Very, very babyface. That might wear thin on fans as the months go by. I don't know. So if they keep the belt on him and he goes all the way into next year, that would be a big feather in the cap for Keith Lee to not only win the Rumble, but to put down your champion of a year. You know, just make Karrion Kross on Wednesdays look even stronger for beating the guy that is now main eventing WrestleMania. I'd be all for that because I think everybody wins if you do that, especially us because Keith Lee's the man. Marcus Metcalf, thank you, man. Should Sasha and Bayley defend the tag titles next week in NXT? I think they might. I don't know if there's room on the card. I only see 3 matches announced, but I could be missing one. Mia Yim and Candice, the 6-man tag with Breezango and the Santos crew, and Cole and Keith Lee. So they got room for one more. And if they want to add Sasha Bayley and Asuka and Io Shirai to that, to me, that match could be a main event, even though it's going to belong to Lee and Cole. I'd be totally into that, and that would stack that card hard. If they added that match to this card already, Fyter Fest is booked, if you ask me. It's going to be good stuff. Oh, I'd be into that too, Jay King. Drew and Aleister Black for the title. Babyface match, but whatevs. It'd be good stuff. That would be a good match. Aleister Black should have been contending for the title from the minute he got there. He's another one that's just been... He's not treated like a total joke. They somewhat protect him a little bit, but there's no reason why he should not be right in the mix of that title picture. And should have been for quite some time and hasn't been. So he's another guy that just feels like is losing the magic that he used to have in NXT. It's a shame. The few of you that are in here right now in the chat, guys, do me a favor and smash the thumbs up button for me so I don't look like too much of a jabroni here with some of my views. I'd appreciate it. And I'll probably be getting out of here soon. Didn't think this would go too much longer than an hour, because there wasn't a whole lot to get into other than the show. I did not get a chance to really even peek through any wrestling news today. Was a little bit preoccupied. I missed the whole puppy battle royal thing. I don't know what that was about. I think that's set for next week. And you just have to send in pictures of your dog. I'll send in pictures of my cat. Maybe they can use that. Other than that, there's nothing else too earth-shattering going on. Austin Aries seems to be a very well-liked person right now on social media. That's been fun watching everybody drag him through the mud. Boy, he comes off as a dick, doesn't he? Jesus. All right, reading through some of Twitter here as well. All right, just making sure there was nothing else going on that I need to discuss. I'll knock out a couple more super chats, and then I'm going to bail out of here and get on with my night. Thank you, Zane, for $5 more. I appreciate you popping in again. The special event towards the end of July where WWE is holding in a venue has been postponed. You're talking about the fans thing? Yeah, there's no way they're going to be able to pull off having fans in the arena right now. Florida is an absolute mess. I mean, they are literally the WWE of the United States in terms of how they're handling this, reopening way too early, just annihilating every record possible with the amount of cases that they're having per day because they're all fucking stupid down there. So you're trying to put fans in a building now, it's ridiculous. And then here, too, I have my own frustrations with that, living in San Diego, working in a restaurant, and watching these people not giving a fuck just because they've got money and they're too rich to be inconvenienced by a virus and to wear a damn mask. And it's infuriating and it's awful, and I cannot believe that just not being stupid is now a partisan issue, and that's just so typical of America that if you wear a mask, you're like a liberal. How fucking stupid is that? My God. And if you ask me, not to get political, I think the big orange idiot should be wearing a mask to set an example for the farm animal humping followers of his, because they're the ones that need to see that. If he put that on, they would all of a sudden, it's all that takes. He doesn't care about medical experts, scientists, every expert in the world telling you to wear a mask. What they need to hear is from that moron. And if he comes out and says it and is shown on TV wearing a mask, that can save lives. And the fact that he's not willing to do that because he knows that could cost him votes. Well, president wears a mask. Fuck him. The fact that he's not doing that to save votes is exactly why this country is disgusting. And I think it would be, I would respect, I can't believe I'm using that word describing him, but I would respect his decision if he came on TV and wore a mask. Because to me, I think that would send a great message to the hard-headed, uneducated idiots that worship him, and that's what he needs to do. So that's my political message for the day. Wear your fucking mask, you idiots. It's not hard. It's a mild inconvenience. I can't breathe. That's because you're a little bitch. Just try harder. It's just, if you can't breathe, then wearing a mask is like the least of your health concerns. You need to check yourself out, go to a doctor or whatever. It sucks. None of us like wearing masks. I hate that thing. It's choking me. It's pulling on my ears. It is making it a little bit difficult to breathe. I don't like breathing in my own fucking air, but it's the reality. It's what we have to deal with right now to help contain this thing. And the fact that people are so selfish and they're so concerned about their stupid rights is frustrating. And I think I've always said this country's dumb, but they're proving it in 2020. If there's one thing 2020 has taught me, it's how truly despicable human beings are. It's true. Embarrassing that we act this way, we behave this way, and people do the things they do. Crazy, psychotic Karens taking all their groceries out of their basket at Trader Joe's and throwing them at people because they were asked to wear a mask. Really? A piece of cloth over your cunty face? Just do it. Just do it. It's not hard. Anyway, that's my PSA for the night. How Weezy, thanks for $2 more, dude. What WWE superstars are better off in AEW? Oh, God, dude. I got it. There could be a million of them. I'd say almost everybody could be better in AEW, especially except for maybe some of the top stars. But, a lot of the NXT guys that came up to the main roster that just lost the magic, they could maybe regain that magic in AEW in a company that's set up like that. That's what I think. So I'd have to give that some thought. But imagine if we could get like Shinsuke Nakamura in AEW, Bobby Roode in AEW, guys like that had a hell of a run in NXT, but did jack on the main roster. So you put some of those guys there, they can be reborn. And that would be nice. Yeah, Low-Key is another dumbass. Low-Key and Austin Aries and all these other idiots. And they're so dumb, too, because they put this on social media and they literally just get ripped apart. Like, when you read their replies, like, 1 out of every 20 people will agree with them. And everybody else is like, how fucking dumb are you? So, like, why would you even post that knowing you're just going to get torn to shreds by everybody? Because you're masking your, no pun intended, but you're masking your resistance to a mask under some sort of bullshit rights that don't even exist at the end of the day. Like, you have to put a seatbelt on or you get a ticket. How come nobody's protesting seatbelts? Doesn't make any sense. It's just not hard. It's not a big deal. People act like they're going through the Holocaust because the government's making me wear a mask. Oh, my God. People are little bitches. Little bitches. Total little bitches. I love Brian Pillman Jr. I wish him the best. I don't know how I get along with him personally. I've exchanged some DMs with him in the past before. And I've always been amazed of what a great job he's doing of looking like his dad. Every day that goes by, he looks more and more like him. A couple years ago, I could see what he was going for, and I'm like, he needs to get in a little bit better shape because Brian was just a stud, But Junior there is now kind of filling out a little bit. He's got the hair, and I see Pillman's face in Brian Jr. I can see him. And to me, as a fan of Pillman, as a guy that grew up watching a lot of Pillman, Pillman was one of my favorite people ever in wrestling, just his character. I think I was more a fan of Pillman after he couldn't wrestle, just based on his promos and his look and his intensity and his, real edginess and stuff. And I can see it in his eyes, man. Junior's got it. So he looks a lot like his dad. Not as good as Pillman in the ring, but he's only going to get better, and I wish him the best. Can't not root for Pillman's son, you know what I mean? Thanks for that, Dre. It's just frustrating because they're acting like it's the worst thing in the world. Nobody's asking you to stick a needle in your dick. They're just saying, put a mask on when you go to the store. To even fight that just tells me what despicable human beings everyone is in this world. Absolutely despicable, selfish people. Alrighty. I was wondering. I didn't know that Marcus Pillman was backstage at AEW. I've been wondering when he was going to turn up there. If I was AEW, I'd be trying to get him right away to really push the Pillman son type of deal. Bring him in as Brian Pillman Jr. I want to see that. I think he'd be great there. And they should do that. The only thing that sucks, though, is Pillman Jr. going to AEW is probably going to prevent Pillman from going into the Hall of Fame anytime soon, because I feel like Pillman Jr. would need to be there. I think it would be cool if Pillman signed with AEW, and then if WWE put his dad into the Hall of Fame, if they worked something out with AEW the way they worked out TNA getting Ric Flair in for the Horseman's induction, I think it'd be cool if they were able to bring Jr. in to accept on his dad's behalf. Even though Pillman Jr. has no memory of Brian, just the fact that he's trying to follow in his footsteps and carry on the legacy, I think he'd be a great guy to accept on Pillman's behalf, and maybe one day they can work that out. But if WWE is, hell-bent on having no association with AEW whatsoever, then they might not do that, and Pillman might not get in for quite some time until Junior finds his way into the WWE one day. We'll see. Mask or ventilator. Yeah, I'll take a mask. I'm not saying actually, I got to look into that. I was going to say I might get some GoodMicWork masks made. Maybe we'll put them up as like a little private order or something. I'm going to look into that. But I'm not saying, even though I think people are idiots who don't wear a mask, I'm not saying wearing a mask is fun. I'm just saying if you can't handle the inconvenience, then you're a little bitch. That's all I'm saying. It's not hard. Yes, it sucks, but it's not hard. And nobody wants to wear it. And shout out to Catherine today, who mentioned on Twitter to me, she's like, we're looking at a year to 18 months of this. Minimum of wearing a mask in public. It's a thing now. Get used to it. It's here and ain't going away anytime soon. Unless you're an asshole. You could be right, Ronnie. I mean, I still think that's I would never want to post something stupid just for attention. That's not the type of attention I want. So they might be doing it for that reason, but I think that's an awfully stupid reason to purposely post something moronic just so you can have people attack you and block you and unfollow you. I don't know. And get your name trending. I know any publicity is good publicity, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. I wouldn't want it. Oh, Pillman Jr. in WWE was Stone Cold as his mentor. Oh, man. A Hollywood blonde and a little mini Hollywood blonde. Or a Hollywood bald and a Hollywood brown, I guess, Pillman. Pillman's not totally blonde. He was never even really totally blonde when he was in the Hollywood Blondes. And his son isn't really that blonde either. That would be cool, though. I mean, maybe not as... I mean, I can't see Austin as like an Arn Anderson or Tully Blanchard type, like mentoring or coaching someone. But at least giving him a rub. At least like getting in the ring with him. If Brian went there and he was in NXT or something and Austin made an appearance on NXT one night and toasted a beer. You and your dad and I ran up and down the road and he was one of the best friends in my life. And this necklace right here, he gave it to me. And cheers as the Steve Weisers and they go down. I think that would be great. It'd be a great moment. I'd be totally into that. Maybe one day. Maybe one day we'll get there. But anyway, all right, I think I'm going to put a cap on this night. Thank you guys very much for joining. I didn't think we'd have a huge audience in here, and we did not. But I didn't care. I wanted to come up here on this Wednesday and talk some wrestling with you guys. Keep in mind that I will be up at a different time this Saturday, 2 p.m., this time on the West Coast, 5 p.m. on the East Coast. So just keep that in mind for your schedule. Set your alarms and all that good stuff. I'll have a link up in a couple of days and a bunch of reminders all over social media. So that's that. You guys take care. Have a good rest of your Wednesday evening. Thank you again for hanging out with me today. You guys are awesome and loyal, and that's why you keep this channel going. I will talk to you in just a couple days. Until then, peace.